Hello, my friends. Welcome to Lindy's Magpie Reads. If you're new here, I'm Lindy. I read a lot. I have many books to catch up on telling you about on this channel. So I'm going to just pick a few that I read in January. I think they'll all be audiobooks, and all of them are fiction. But before I get to that, I want to tell you about this great event that I went to in January here in Victoria, British Columbia, where I live. It was an orchard wassail, and never having been to an event like this before, I didn't quite know what to expect. It was fun. It is based on traditional ceremonies, something that was done to wake up the apple trees. So this was held in a community orchard that's just a few blocks away from where I live. There's fruit trees that are cared for by volunteers, and they're available for food for anybody who needs it. And I have decided to become involved with this group. They seem just great. So for the wassail, they had a canopy, which was great because it was pouring rain for this event, and a table with apple cake and hot apple cider, and just there for everybody to have some. And the event, the purpose of the wassail is to wake up the trees first thing in the spring. So there was singing of a number of different traditional songs. They had singers doing that. But for one of the songs, they also had lyrics for us that they handed out so we could sing this wassail song for the trees. It's different from the wassail that happens right around Christmas, but the wassail for the orchard is shortly after, in early January, I guess. I think this is traditionally around January 6th, somewhere in there. I'm not sure. Anyway, there was also a bag full of slices of bread, of baguette actually, from my favorite bakery, Fry's Bakery, which is located right across from the street from where this orchard is. And we all got a piece of bread, and we were told to dip it into our cider and then place it in the trees. So, we also got a stick, a pruning bit of wood from some trees that have been cut back, and you use the stick to lightly tap the tree to wake it up, and you gave it some bread and poured a little cider for it. And there was also a pea and a bean hidden in the cake, baked into the cake, and whoever got the pea, I think, was the queen of the wassail, and whoever got the bean was the king. Might have been vice versa, I can't remember. But they got a staff, they got a special goblet to drink their cider out of, and after we'd finished waking the trees, we followed them into the community hall where there were Morris dancers. And I had never seen Morris dancing before, but this is British folkloric dance. I'll include some clips at the end of this video, so if you don't know what it was like, you can see. Victoria is said to be more British than England, so I guess it isn't surprising that there would be Morris dancers at an event. It was fun. It was really fun. Even little small kids were dancing along as well. Yeah. So on to the books. I'm going to start with a classic, Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. Now, my feminist book club chose this for the month of February, but we haven't yet discussed it. I thought it would be good to get my thoughts down here ahead of time. I had never read Wuthering Heights before. It's the only book that Emily Brontë wrote, and I think it came out in 1847. I read one by her sister, Charlotte Brontë, Jane Eyre. Did not much care for it, not a fan. I liked Wuthering Heights better, but you can tell by my hesitation. How to describe this book? It is bananas. This is a book with no likable characters, really. Well, maybe Nellie, the servant. I'm not even sure, but it's all about plot, not nuanced characters. The characters, wow, they behave in some very horrible ways. Probably the thing that I knew most about Wuthering Heights is kind of what I gathered from Kate Bush's song. So, yeah, I didn't quite know what to expect. I listened to an audiobook that was narrated by Anna Bentinck, and I found it in Hoopla. And I was quite enthralled in a horrified sort of way. And also, there were parts that made me laugh at just how ludicrous and outrageous they were. And I'm quite sure that wasn't Emily Bronte's intention when she wrote it, but who knows? I can give you a sort of a basic outline that there are these two families, two houses way out in the northern English moors, and the Earnshaws are in one and the Lintons are in the other, and Heathcliff is a dark-skinned orphan who is brought to the house as a child, very small child, by Mr. Earnshaw, and raised kind of as his child, but more as a servant, really. And he's about the same age as Catherine. And so these part siblings have an attraction to each other, and they're raised pretty wild. As a matter of fact, Catherine says at one point, "I wish I was a girl again, half savage, hardy, and free." And yeah, I would describe her as half savage. There's a point where she's talking about her love for Heathcliff, where I think she describes herself as the honeysuckle wrapped around a thorn, and with Heathcliff being the thorn, but it's more like the thorn wrapped around the thorn, because she is pretty thorny. One of the parts that made me laugh is when Catherine says, "I thought though everybody hated and despised each other, they could not avoid loving me." Oh. Anyway, I don't want to give you other examples about what made me laugh, because that would be spoilers. Another thing I wanted to say about Wuthering Heights is that I found the theme of revenge, because Heathcliff is like 100% over the top Mr. Revenge. And normally I don't like books that focus on revenge. However, the way that revenge is dealt with in this book kind of does appeal to me in a Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus kind of way, where an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. Everything gets destroyed. I can get with that kind of revenge because I think it shows just how deadly revenge is. And even one of the characters, Isabella, she has a line, "Treachery and violence are spears pointed at both ends. They wound those who resort to them worse than their enemies." 100% Isabella, you said it. Yeah, so I'm quite curious to hear what the other members of my feminist book club think of this. The others have read it previously, so I would think this is the kind of book where, depending on the age you are when you read it, you're going to experience it differently. On to a novel that my sister Zan recommended to me. It's Cold by Drew Hayden Taylor. And I listened to the audiobook that's read by the author and 6 other narrators. So Drew Hayden Taylor is Anishinaabe, he's Canadian, Indigenous, and this one is humorous horror that incorporates beings from Anishinaabe culture, supernatural beings. And when I checked it out, I saw in Libby that I had returned it in August last year, and I thought, I don't remember reading this. When I was listening to it, it all came back to me, and it also came back to me at what point I stopped listening and gave up on it. So in August last year was when I was recovering from a concussion, and this book did not work for me then, but I got into it this time, and I listened to it far enough to get to the supernatural aspect, which really did hook me. It starts out with a small plane that crashes in Canada's north, and these 2 women who are the survivors, and what happens with them. And then there's this character, Elmore, who's a professor of Indigenous literature, and he is Indigenous himself, in a university in Toronto. And having him there allows Drew Hayden Taylor to bring up a lot of other examples of Canadian Indigenous writing. I actually quite liked that sort of name dropping that was happening in this novel. And one of the women from the plane crash writes a survivor story memoir. So we have her and her story, and then the question is that what really happened? There were Tim Hortons references in here, so more for my Tim Hortons collection that I do on my blog. In fact, this is what my sister Zan had said. Oh, have you read this? There's Tim Hortons in there. The examples of humor and horror, I don't want to give away plot, so I'm just going to give you one. And this is a police detective who says that she had met people who thought they were omnipotent, godlike creatures taking lives they deemed unnecessary. Others who thought they were doing God's work, or the devil's. or the coffee makers. Yeah. I think you could describe this as a horror romp, maybe. It was fun. Next, I've got Theft by Abdulrazak Gurnah, and the audiobook was read by Ashley Zhangazha. Abdulrazak won the Nobel Prize in 2021, I think it was. There was a confusing line at the end of the audiobook. We hope you have enjoyed this unabridged production of Theft, winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature by Abdulrazak Gurnah, which makes it seem like the Nobel Prize in Literature is awarded to a book, in this particular book. Not the case. It's the author who wins. So that's my small quibble. I have also read his books Afterlives and Paradise. I recommend those as well. This one is about the interconnected lives of young people coming of age in Tanzania and Zanzibar. The characters are Muslim. They're all very nuanced. The setting is vibrant. So I really felt like I was transported to another place and was able to have my sense of the world enlarged through reading about these people. I do recommend it. My last book is set in Sri Lanka. It's Tall Water by S.J. Sindu with illustrations by Dion, MDB. S.J. Sindu is a queer Tamil diaspora writer currently living in the U.S., and Dion is an Indonesian illustrator in Badung. So S.J. Sindu actually spent her childhood in Sri Lanka during the Civil War there. And in this story, we have a teenager named Nimi, whose father is white and her mother is Tamil. Nimi is living in the US with her father, and her mother is in Sri Lanka. In 2004, she travels with her father to Sri Lanka, where she gets a chance to see her mother again. They'd only been communicating through letters in the meantime. But you might notice the date, December 26, 2004. There was a devastating tsunami in that area, and so this character Nimi and her family are there for the tsunami. It's quite a moving graphic novel with a subtle portrayal of bisexual queerness, and I thought it was great, extremely well done. And that is all I've got for you today. So thank you very much for watching, and I always love hearing from you, so please do say hello in the comments, or if you don't know what to say, just give me a little apple emoji. Stick around if you want to see a little bit of Morris dancing that I'm going to put in at the end. Thanks everybody, and happy reading. Bye for now.